Welcome to episode 185 of Masters of the Forge. I'm Adam, and with me, as usual, is Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, everyone.
And also Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hey, everybody.
Not as always. I think you were on once before.
I was.
You were on once before. It was one of our S shows. This is not an S show, but it is an S show. I'm late because I was trading in my old Doom Rectangle for a new Doom Rectangle, and that took longer than I suspected, though I don't know why I didn't suspect. So I could trade an old S20 in for a new S22 for $0. Free upgrade, but you had to have an eligible trade-in. My phone had a hole in the screen. That is not an eligible trade-in. So I had to take it to a store to have it repaired for $300 so I could get a free $1,000 phone. That's a whole thing. While Quinn kept another family that was waiting occupied. So four kids, four screaming, laughing, happy kids in the T-Mobile store playing with Quinn's giant box of cars that I never forget. Boy, were those other customers happy. They were stoked to have that parade of nonsense in the store. It was great.
That's a quality retail shopping experience.
Clearly. It was like an hour and a half in that store, too. Like 2 hours in that store dealing with all those kids. And I thought for sure that'd get me in and out faster. No, the clerks are just like, you know what? However long it takes is how long it takes. So
hey, they get paid the same amount for the same amount of hours, no matter what. Yeah.
And you know what?
I think your screen, bring more toy cars.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, how annoyed the other customers were probably just a bonus for the clerks. I know if I worked there, it would be for me as well. So that's great. So Eric, it's great to have you on. Let's remind everybody of your other media before and after the show. So you have a blog, right?
Sure. So I run the Variance Hammer blog. That's it. I'm sorry, my voice decided to die there. Mm-hmm. So I run the Variance Hammer blog. That's at www.variancehammer.com, and that's sort of my long-form musings on the hobby and 40K with sort of a math and statistics bent to it. And I'm also one of the co-hosts of Lost to the Nails with Brian Harvey of former Splintermind fame. And there we talk about, really, it's a general hobby podcast. We talk about a lot of different things, sort of with a narrative bent because we're both filthy casuals, and a fairly heavy emphasis on just finding what you enjoy in the hobby and running with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. You have the important distinction of playing Crusade way more than we do, despite the fact that we have a podcast all about playing essentially all about playing Crusade. So thank you for lending if for now, if temporarily, some level of credibility to our podcast. We appreciate it.
my hardcore actual play experience.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, welcome. So what have you been working on? So we have a general form, like the kind of traditional, like from back in the day type format here for our intros. We do games played and hobby progress because a lot of people love hearing about games played and hobby progress. So what have you been working on the table recently, Eric?
Yeah. So before about January, I had been working on some Black Templars for the LVO, sort of frantically painting those for the narrative event, and then I think I know how this ends.
I decided
to pull the eject handle on Las Vegas because then epidemic curves went vertical, and I was like, yeah, no, that's it's getting a little spicy. Let's not do this. And that sort of took the wind out of my sails for a bit. When the panic fades, you're like, okay, I've got some other stuff to do. Life caught up with me and things like that. So I've been trying to sort of ease myself back in. And part of that has been painting a lot of like general purpose terrain. So, ruins for scatter terrain, Jersey barriers for urban things they're meant to work with a lot of different settings and a lot of different boards and sort of ease myself back into painting that. And I've also been tinkering with speed paints a little bit. The Army Painter folks sent me a demo set, and I've been sort of tooling around with those, trying to get some sort of one-off models that I wanted painted but didn't want to paint super well. I wanted to look at using speed paints for those because like they were essentially saber-toothed cats, and I was like, these are organic services. I want to paint these up quickly. I want them to get on the tabletop and have them look good. And I actually really enjoyed using the speed paints. They were a fun little sort of side project.
I heard that there's been a little bit of controversy with speed paints because they bleed through paints that go over them.
That is definitely a thing. So I am going to do a sort of a longer write-up for Variance Hammer on it. But they reactivate at the drop of a hat. Water will reactivate them. Another speed paint will reactivate them. Some varnishes will reactivate them. Okay. That's the real tricky bit. And so
normally you would just put a varnish on it and then paint over
and then go to town. And the answer is you can do that. I think I tried AK Interactive's gloss varnish through an airbrush. That worked great. I tried Ammo of Meg's matte varnish, and all the paint went like hog wild and started bleeding, which was not super desirable. So I think one of the things is, I think to essentially save everybody from having to read this, my summation is I think speed paints will be really good for what they were designed for, which is like one coat, get it on the table, beginner friendly sort of contrast style painting. I think where they will lose out is some of the sort of extended life people have gotten out of contrast paints where like, oh, I can use this for a blood effect, or like contrast paints or like cruise control for making magic swords and things like that. I think they'll lose out on some of that just because you have to be really careful with the reactivation issue. It's definitely a thing.
So it's more of like a whole solution for your painting, not like a one of the minor tools you use in conjunction with other things.
Yeah, so like my Black Templar have snakebite leather for their leather armor pouches, ammo pouches, because why not? I can't see replacing that with a speed paint because like I don't know that I can varnish over it.
Right.
And then like that sort of complicates the and then oil washes stage of my painting where I hide all my sins in various oils and enamels. So like that's going to be really hard to get around, but it is I really enjoyed them for just like I'm going to sit down, I'm going to paint these like 8 models over the course of a conference call, which was a really fast pace for me. And one of the things I do like is they mix with themselves really well. So they all have a fairly uniform consistency. And so I could do a little variation in like, this is brown, this is a lighter brown, this is a reddish brown, which for organic shapes and a bunch of essentially saber-toothed tigers worked really, really well for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Hey, any kind of tool that you can use and get a great result quickly is okay in my book. I'm sure, there's bonuses and there's detriments to every tool, so I'm sure it's fine. Jason, what have you been doing the past couple weeks?
Okay, so I think we finally finished recording everything last weekend, right?
Yeah.
Our last episode was
it's like an old episode. We had like 2 interviews, a battle report, intro, outro.
It was
the battle
a
report
nightmare.
had like 8 recordings. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think I was running like
for you.
14 tracks, and I had notes for all of them, and it was just
oh my god,
2 pages of notes, which normally I only need about.
Oof.
Oh yeah, and Quinn showed.
We leave those in.
We leave those in because that actually shows that we're human beings.
What?
It's the humanity that we're trying to go with.
How dare you?
Anyway, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to do a lot of hobby, but I built a Finecast Lord of Change. I'd picked this up from Oklahoma when I was on one of my trips up there.
Right.
And it's old Finecast, so I'll just use it as a regular Demon Prince. And then I realized I have 2 Lords of Change. One's metal, one's Finecast. And then I forgot that I had picked up a Fate Weaver that was in metal a couple of years ago. I got it from someone, I don't remember. So I guess I do like Old Hammer. I think we can all admit that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like lowercase o Old Hammer. Like Old Hammer things are nice.
Yeah, having a lot of weird models is kind of nice, or variety.
The Old Hammer zeitgeist has some some difficult situations in it, but Old Hammer is nice.
I like the old models. I don't like the weirdness that comes around with some. How about this? I like the models, but the fans of the models, not all that happy with. All right. Does that work? Okay. I did have. So we've been playing. What is this? The Wars of Faith campaign. And so in our last game, we did this kind of idol of Tzeentch. And so I realized I had my endless spells of Tzeentch box that I had built, and I'd even like based and kind of messed around with. And so there's a book that's kind of on this pillar of flames. And so I painted that up. That'll be my new idol of Tzeentch for whenever we actually have in-person games. I just need to put together a base for it, which I'll probably do this evening in our movie marathon hangout, which is going to be fascinating. I also picked up a Solitaire, a Death Jester, and a Shadow Seer. I do like Harlequins quite a bit, but I've never painted them or built them just because I've never felt that I had that painting ability, I guess we could say.
Or self-hatred.
I've got plenty of self-hatred. I mean, Eric and I were talking about it earlier. I have self-hatred that I'm good at. So
you got that covered. Okay, good.
Yeah, but now
that's what's held me back from the Harlequins too. Is like I love this conceptually. I'd love this to work into my army, but I'd have to paint it.
Yeah,
yeah, that sounds like a lot of work.
I do have this, part of my personality that looks at impossible things and says, I can do that. There's still some of that redneck ancestry that I have. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to build those 3 during our movie marathon. I do have a Harlequin troop that's built, primed, and Zenithal highlighted. But I haven't really found... I haven't found the masks that I want yet because I was wanting one that was specifically anti-Thousand Suns or whatever. But they never mention any of the Harlequins by masks in any of the lore. They just, it's always that Armon gets into fights with Harlequins. So, yeah. And then I thought maybe I would go through and use, the Dance Without End mask, which has some interesting lore. It has a really cool, like, subtitle, The Symphony Without End or something like that. And the color scheme seems like it's interesting, like magenta and the color, not the Rocky Horror Picture Show character. So magenta and black with green and blue motley. But I don't know if I'm going to do that or if I'm just going to go through and create my own mask. I'm still yeah. Like I wrote the show notes and I'm still sitting here like trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So more than likely during our hobby hangout tonight or our movie hangout, I'll figure that out, get that sorted.
Right on.
What about you, Adam? You're still working on handgunners? Oh my God.
Dude, I spent 2 weeks with Wendy in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And Quinn.
Hold on, she was on a ship in the Pacific Ocean on a cruise ship, right? Not with her literally in the Pacific Ocean.
No, she's not. She was I don't know. She might have gotten in one on Black Sands Beach. She might have gotten in the Pacific for a very short period of time. But yeah. So I was just so tired by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Quinn and I went swimming. We had fun.
Oh, yeah.
We did a lot of stuff. We did, kept the house clean mostly. So I was so tired. And 30 handgunners just are like a lot.
Well,
it's a lot to look at. You know what I'm saying?
I think that 30 handgunners would be difficult for anyone under any circumstance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that I'm still working on it, but actually as of last night, I have everything done on the models themselves, except for one banner needs freehanding. I'm still deciding whether I want. So one of them has the crowned skull with a sword through it. Another one has the hourglass design that's so popular with death worshippers. So the other one, I think it was actually Colin from Legalized Mischief suggested like a stack of skulls. It's one of those long banners that actually originally came with the Knights kit. So it's more something that's will be really stretched out and long. So I took that idea and I'm thinking what I might do is I'll put a row of skulls and put names under each skull, a name under each skull. So it represents like people in that unit who died in the service of Nagash. So I thought that might be cool. Someone also suggested roses, which the cult of Moor, like the rose was one of their symbols. It's the marigolds for obvious appropriation reason. I mean, not obvious reasons. So I'm playing with that thought maybe. So I'm doing that, and then I have to do the skull face paint on all 30. So that'll take some time.
Yeah.
So I think that is the key to your handgunners is like, yes, you are painting 30 handgunners still, but you're being a little bit extra with them.
Yeah, being a little extra.
Right.
That's
right.
true. That's true. So once I get the face painting done, then I'll move on to the bases. So what I did was I actually put them on index cards to paint them this time, instead of gluing them to this. So like I was gluing them to square bases and then popping them off and put them on the circle bases, because why not? I got the square bases there. Instead, I doubled up some index cards and glued them to the index cards. So what I'm hoping, because these guys I have to put them on the finished base because I'm using the leaves, the seed pods. So like putting those on after, it doesn't work because you don't want them over the feet. The feet are supposed to be crunching on the leaves. So I'm hoping when I rip them off these cards that there's going to be paper fibers on the bottom of the feet, and it'll glue better onto the base. The bannermen, I will still have to pin them. There's no getting around pinning the bannermen. They're just so top heavy that they don't stick to the basing material. So that's the idea there, and that's where I'm at with my hobby. It's been a good week, but poor Wendy hurt herself on a 4-wheeler in Mexico.
Okay.
She sprained her leg.
Ow.
And fractured her hand.
Ow. Okay.
So I'm still taking care of the baby. He's really, really good with potty training, though. He's doing real good.
Good.
Very excited about that.
Good.
We had 5 stickers yesterday, 8 stickers the day before. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. So, what have we done for playing now, Eric? I'm really interested in what you've been working on because I think it's really cool. Can you talk about it?
Sure. So as people may have gathered, or if you were listening to the other show I was on, I'm an epidemiologist by profession. And so during the whole Omicron wave, I was like, all right, so we're not going out for a bit. We're going to go ahead and bunker back down because I've gotten through 2 years of this without getting COVID, and I'm not getting it now. And so I had been interested in a game I had sort of seen some stuff on and then picked up called 5 Parsecs from Home, which is a solitaire war game. And so the idea behind it is you are playing a crew. So if you've played Mass Effect or watched Firefly or really a lot of Sci-Fi Traveler, has some very clear influences. It's sort of that setting. And the idea is you're playing a crew and then you randomly generate enemies and play small skirmish games. So these tend to be somewhere between 2 and 10 figures for the other side. And it's not a terribly deep war game. Right. Your opponents are driven by AI, so it's sort of simplified. So like the cautious AI will, hunker down behind cover and stay there unless you attack them, and then they'll go help their buddies. Aggressive or beast AI will like charge forward but try to stay in cover. There's a couple sort of nuances to things. It's not terribly deep, but what I like about it is this is the Crusade player in me, there's a lot of bookkeeping before and after the battle where you get a lot of sort of emergent narrative stuff. So rolling for what your job is and trying to figure out, okay, so you found this loot. What about this area made that loot be what, made sense? All of that is really fun. So I think as a sort of, if you played it like a game where you were just like playing a series of linked battles, I think it wouldn't be terribly engaging past a couple because honestly, it's not that hard. There's a couple ways to make it harder. There's a whole supplement that makes it harder. But I think one of the real things is it's supposed to be sort of scary when one of your guys dies because you become really attached to them. And so like every time somebody gets wounded, you're like, oh God, if they die, what do I do? Versus, 40K, you're like, well, that squad got wiped out, but they held the objective.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I'm a Sisters of Battle player. It's like 3 experience points for you. So
because they get better when they
best agenda. so that's been really fun because it takes 30 maybe 45 minutes. A kill team size board works. 3x3 is as large as it gets. I painted up the urban terrain I mentioned. I painted up some of it for that, and it's just been fun to do that and get that sort of linked campaign experience. So you get rivals. So groups you defeat may decide that they want another go at you. You have patrons, so people who give you jobs. There's quests, which are essentially sort of extended storylines. And so it's a really good way to just sort of write your own story about this little crew, which appeals to the narrative gamer in me. And there's just a bunch of D100 tables, and those are always good fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My buddy is a fireman, and he spends a lot of time just sitting in the firehouse on his computer. I should send him. I should just like buy this book for him and give it to him. I bet he'd have a lot of fun playing this on Tabletop Simulator or something. And
yeah, it would work great on Tabletop Simulator. I've now sold like 5 copies of this book to people. Any of the sort of battle mats you have from D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that, or Starfinder works really well. There's a lot of different ways to do it because it's pretty miniatures agnostic. It's even scale agnostic. There's like if you're playing this in 6mm, those measurements are centimeters, not inches.
Right.
So yeah, it's been really good. I've been using it as an excuse to 3D print some sci-fi figures that I sort of got from various Kickstarters or Patreons that I haven't had a chance to use. So there's a company I really like that used to do a painting sort of loot crate thing, and then Brexit killed that, and they got into sculpting 3D figures, and they've been doing really cool stuff. But it's all like sort of diesel punk, cyberpunk, not quite right for 40K. And I've just been like, oh yeah, I'll just like, oh, we're fighting like gangsters today. I'm just going to go print a bunch of gangsters. And so that's been fun. And then on the 40K side of things, for our sort of Crusade group, we have sort of a soft reset every couple months to keep the Crusade armies from getting super out of control, where you've got, Blade Guard with 6 battle traits and things like that running around. We decided not to do that this time because essentially nobody managed to play very much over the winter because we had the holidays, and we're in a college town, so a lot of people go home. We're really busy during the holidays. And then COVID kicked up again, so we decided to call it for a bit. So we started that up last night again. And I played a 75 power level game versus our local AdMech player, who is a lot of fun. And I beat him, which was even more fun. Felt like a tactical genius, managed to basically lock down a 15-man unit of Skitarii for the whole game, so they only managed to fire an Overwatch once. And yeah, so it was a fun game. It was good to get back into that. And we're starting a sort of a new chapter where we're fighting over a homebrew sector, and this sort of next 3 months we're focusing on a single world that's sort of gone to hell because the Necrons have woken up underneath it. And so there's sort of 3 factions. We've got 2 Imperial factions, the Preservationists, who are the folks who want this to go back to normal. So, the Ultramarines and the Custodes.
I like these teams, by the way. It's really cool.
Thank you. So we have the Preservationists. We have the Annihilationists. Those are anybody who just wants to see the world burn. So that's our 2 Necron players. Probably, if we get the Gene Stealer Cult guy back, the Gene Stealer Cults, things like that.
But interestingly, I could see the Necron player being part of the Preservationists too.
Absolutely,
so I like the way you have it divided. And the third one is? And
then the third one is the Reformationists, who are, they want it to be under Imperial control. They just want it to be a little bit different than it was. And
the stupid Minotaurs?
That's the AdMech for this. They're trying to make it in the image of the Omnissiah. That's my Oops, All Fanatics, Sisters of Battle, and Black Templars, because clearly you all weren't pious enough, and that's why there's glowing green light under your cities now. And so yeah, the idea of it was you could be a little bit flexible. So like someone wanting to play, we have a Eldar and Drukhari player. They could pick any of these three and have that be credible. And so the idea was to be a little bit flexible in terms of things, but I didn't want to do these sort of Imperial versus Chaos and shoehorn everybody into one. And I wanted to be able to have you be able to fight your own side and have that make sense. So that's always the trouble I have, is we have a pretty unbalanced group. We have a lot of Imperium keyword players. And so I wanted the Imperium keyword players to be able to have fights without being like, well, it's a training exercise.
Right.
Yeah.
The next time you play against the Mechanicus player, your Dialogus should like have some Imperial scrap code that uploads like self-sacrifice code into the Skitari. Like,
that's a good idea.
For the Omnissiah.
It's not a bad idea. We like introduce the concept of martyrdom.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I could see a Dialogus doing that. Well, that sounds awesome. I'm so excited. I really wanted us to get more Crusade stuff going locally, but it's been weird over here. I'm not going to get into it. I think I've gotten into it in the past. It's just been, our community's been weird ever since COVID, and I really haven't been running anything, and it's just been tough. So we kind of are doing more local stuff. So
doing more Garage Hammer type stuff.
More Garage Hammer. So with that, I did have a game with my buddy John, who actually came over to my house last Saturday. We played the Crowning of Storval mission from the new Vigilus Alone book. This was a fun mission to play. All of these ones that require some kind of action in no man's land just seem weird to me, especially this one where the action requires there to be no enemy units within range of the objective. Always feels tough for the attacker or the person going second in these cases. So, but it didn't feel bad playing it. It actually did feel fairly close. So maybe I'm the jerk and I'm like projecting my concerns onto the mission type, because we were pretty close. It was, and also with the narrative missions, I never know whether to say, let's score the person going second at the end of the game instead of at the start of the, you know what I'm saying? At the start of the command phase. Because that's what they do in matched play, and they do it for a reason, but it doesn't say to do it in narrative play. I feel like we should do it in narrative play to score at the end of the turn in the 5th battle round for the person going second.
Yeah. If
we'd done that, we would have tied. But since we didn't, I won the game. I finally won a game. Yay! The orcs, the beast snaggers finally won a game. And instead of a big Noctilith crown... They're not easy
either.
No, instead of a Noctilith crown, I put like my orc shield generator and some like little other generators in the on the field instead. And that looked really cool. So that was a really fun game with John. We had a nice time. Quinn threw dice really hard at John, so that was really good. That's how I like to live my life.
Throwing things at John is a great thing.
Especially dice. Like,
it's not a knife this time.
No, it's not a knife. I didn't. I'm not teaching Quinn to throw. He has to come up with that on his own.
Yeah.
So, let's go beyond the fringe. I don't think putting my face on the pop screen really does anything with
it doesn't.
Sound effects. Nothing really happened there. Okay, so Beyond the Fringe. Beyond the Fringe is where we talk about something that's not hobby related. Eric, I don't know if you have anything that you've been dying to talk about that has nothing to do with gaming. But we'll let Jason go first because he's got something.
So I started doing all those walking challenges and whatnot. I've done 143 miles since the January 29th. And so I'm on the road to Mordor. I just passed the Strutting Pony bar 8 miles ago. So that was kind of cool.
You mean the prancing pony? How
maybe
dare
that was
you?
it. Hey, that's
I'm working
through.
Wait, hold on. Let me explain it to you. There is an inn, a merry old inn beneath an old gray hill, and there they brew a beer so brown that the man in the moon himself came down one night to drink his fill. Now the ostler has a tipsy cat who plays a bowstring fiddle. Now sawing high, now sawing low. Now okay, that's the extent of how much.
Yeah.
I had a little character arc here where I felt like a bad Tolkien nerd because I was like, "Is there a strutting pony inn?" And then felt like a good Tolkien nerd because I was like, no, it's the prancing pony, and I know that. And then it went right back down to like, okay. And then there's Adam.
Okay, so I'm working with this one app that is definitely not trying to get into trouble with that estate. So they're not always giving the same names. But I have gone through that area.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's not just me making fun of it because I'm not a Tolkien nerd. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't do it. I've tried.
I see. No, it's fine. It's understandable.
Yeah,
dork. So I really didn't put anything for mine, except for what I already talked about. But Quinn's turning 3 on Monday, and I'm feeling extremely old, and we want to have another one. So good for us.
Well, don't watch Suburban Sasquatch because I'm pretty sure that will give you ED.
No, I watched it. It is the worst. That movie is terrible. And join our Discord. You too can watch terrible movies with us, like Suburban Sasquatch.
Yeah. Did you know it's a $550 budget?
That much, huh?
They had to buy the booms. They had to buy the boom for the mic and the field recorder. So that's their budget right there.
They didn't borrow it. Okay, Eric, do you have anything that you're dying to talk about?
I got tenure.
Hey man, that's Yahtzee. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hyped for that and very relaxed now. And so then I promptly took a week off, and that's why I've been playing so much 5 Parsecs.
That's really funny. Ooh, sabbatical time.
No, he's got another project. He just got funded. He didn't have time for sabbatical.
No, but got to pencil that in somewhere for, Gotta figure out how to get a sabbatical in Nottingham.
Adepticon next year, dude. You should
try.
You should do it if we don't have another pandemic or nuclear war. In the Astropathic communique today, I just wanted to talk about the fact that Curtis has been building and painting the models that Games Workshop sent us. Thank you, Games Workshop.
Yes,
and they look gorgeous. He did a great job. Our buddy Curtis plays good guy elves. He plays
the orange ones.
The orange Lugganoth. I keep thinking Hive Fleet. It's not. It's
same difference.
Craft World. Thank you, Craft World. Lugganoth. They're kind of like the kind of people who put out mousetraps, but they're like the nice mousetraps that don't break their necks, and so they carry the mice out to the backyard and let them go, and the mice come back in the house. That's what Craft World Lugganoth is when it comes to humans and stuff. They're nice. But then, after the 3rd or 4th time, like, okay, let's kill these guys. Anyways, they look gorgeous. And he's got an extensive Eldar collection. He's loving them. And he says that they're excellent models. So we'll take his word on that. Maybe we'll have an episode with him and doing some Eldar. Maybe we'll give you a break this month or next month and do a battle report. Or I'll actually do a battle report for the Freebooted Network, which I haven't done yet this year. Yeah, maybe I should do that.
It's beginning to look a lot like March. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Curse City's coming back.
Yes, and it's coming back as made to order, but they're also doing future expansions, which I'm
everybody's
really
getting
stoked
one.
about.
Anybody who wants one is getting one.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the made to order.
Well, I lucked out and got mine. I just got lucky and got it. And I remember them saying, "Hey, we'll do expansions in the future." I was like, "Yeah," but then with the pandemic and whatnot, that kind of put everything on hold. So, but I'm looking forward to it because I loved playing that.
Have either of you played it?
I've actually played through Cursed City the entire way.
Oh, nice. So
it's
I guess the question is, do I want one?
Okay. Did you like Blackstone Fortress?
Didn't play Blackstone Fortress.
Okay, fine. Let's see if we can make this more difficult.
Have you played any adventure games like that?
Yeah, I played Warhammer Quest back in the day.
Okay, so basically what's happened is every time they have a new game that comes out, they're refining the mechanics. So the mechanics for Cursed City are actually better than Blackstone Fortress, and I can't believe I just said that. I'll go slap myself later.
And a lot of the people who played, I talked to who played the Silver Tower say that Blackstone Fortress was an improvement on Silver Tower. So,
okay.
How about this? We really had a lot of fun with it. I absolutely love Blackstone Fortress, but the mechanics on this actually fix a couple of things that I was kind of aggravated with Blackstone about, but it fixes those. So it actually is very, very quick playing. The only issue I have with
you can't play an Orc Luda in this one and kill everything.
I didn't write that in my notes, but yeah.
So you have two issues.
Okay, fine. I have two issues. Because in Blackstone I had an Orc Luda, and then I had this double pistol rogue trader that were just wiping everything off the board, and I was laughing the entire time because our tanks would run up to beat stuff, and then they wouldn't totally take it out. And that's okay. The Luda would take out the tank and everything behind it. So yeah,
just kill your own guy.
Yeah, but that was part of the mechanic was, you can actually shoot if any of your people are in front of the Luda, they can get shot, and you have to roll for every one of them. I was like, this is perfect.
That's quality mechanic.
Yeah. Yeah, every turn began with the Luda running up, doing stuff, and everyone's saying, okay, he's run out of ammo. Now let's do this. But Cursed City was really, really great. We had a great time with it. It was just, we got through it pretty quick because we would run 2 and 3, maybe 4 missions a night. And we just, it's also pretty fast rolling, and also the 4 of us were just like, we want to get through this. And yeah, I even painted up the what did I call him, the flamboyant pirate. Yeah,
the pirate like we made this joke before.
Yeah, it was the guy's holding the pistol. He looks like would be an incredible rogue trader model,
right? So
I painted it like kind of like Lando Calrissian, and so yeah, cool.
Cursed City. So
yeah,
our Patreon, war chest, I guess, was up to about $60. We thank you to those of you who have been donating. I think we pale in comparison to other podcasts. We're so niche and also not cool. Other podcasts who are cool have way more Patreon than we do, but we
also don't offer anything.
We offer you the happy knowledge that you're funding us. What are you talking about, Jason? How dare you?
We're not like auctioning off dates with anyone.
Yeah, we have to start doing that.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, Eric, do you want to get in on that? You want to get on the block? Anyways, so there was about $60 in there. We decided this month to go ahead and donate that. Fallout Hobbies was talking about it. The person who runs that is of Ukrainian descent. They've been doing 3D prints. They've been doing production note. Awesome decals. One of them, it's like the Ukrainian flag, sunflowers, and also words that say Russian worship. Go f*** yourself. So
hold on. Okay,
that's really, I told you production note. Anyways, and those are like $15, and part of the proceeds go to Nova Ukraine, a nonprofit that provides citizens with everything from baby food and hygiene products and clothes and household supplies and stuff. So rather than buy, transfers, we just went and donated $100 to Nova Ukraine. If you Google that, it's not the first result. Keep your eyes peeled for search results that are trying to steal your money. But so thank you to the patrons this month. We really appreciate you donating to support Ukrainian civilians, and hopefully that situation clears up without much more loss of human life. So on that cheerful note, we're going to hit a break and come back and talk about Vigilus Alone and the continuation of that storyline. Damn, I knew it was around here somewhere. Damn, where is it?
Can I help you?
Ah! Scared me.
What do you seek?
I need the perfect scenario for a narrative game I'm running this week, and I can't find one.
Sir, this is the Black Library. We don't have narrative scenarios.
Well, then where should I go?
Might I recommend the Tabletop Campaign Repo?
The Tabletop Campaign Repo? What's that?
The Tabletop Campaign Repo is an ad-free site for hosting resources related to playing tabletop miniatures wargaming.
Oh, like scenarios?
Absolutely. Also, event packs, custom objectives, tracking sheets, custom terrain rules, maps, icon packs, award templates, and more.
Oh, and this is for Warhammer 40k?
Among other things, there's also Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and others. They're always open for content submissions for any system, even non-Games Workshop materials.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like a great way to save all of this great content the community makes. A lot of that stuff often ends up disappearing into a dead message board or Facebook group.
Exactly. It's a real community effort.
Great. So how do I get there?
Just go to that webway gate marked tcrepo.com.
tcrepo.com. Got it. Can I ask you one more question before I go?
Fire away.
This place is really easy to find. How come Aramon can never find it?
Oh, because it's more funny that way.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
Once again, the Tabletop Campaign repository can be found at tcrepo.com, and they're always looking for submissions.
Greetings, mofos.
Are you out of George Dickel number 8, staring at a broken chess machine?
Don't want to spend the rest of the year tied to that couch?
Well, why don't you head on over to the 1 Hour a Night Facebook page and see what exciting stuff is going on there. It's a place to post all your daily progress in the hobby grind, as well as receive and give positive feedback. Also, there are usually a few interesting challenges going on.
That's right. All you have to do is search for 1 Hour a Night on Facebook. That's numeral 1 Hour a Night, all one word. Blood serum tests will be administered prior to approval.
Se til helvete og kom dere vekk. Det ikke bikkje, det en slags ting. Den imiterer bikkje, men det ikke det. Kom dere vekk, idioter!
What he said. So welcome back. All right, interesting read for Vigilus Alone. It doesn't say like book 1 of 2. It's just Vigilus Alone. I can still. We haven't had word that there's going to be more than one, and I assume that there's going to be a couple of kill teams for it. If I recall correctly, there were supposed to be like 2 kill team releases with each Warzone, I think.
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar.
Right, and so there's no revisionist in this one. It's not like going back to the. It's not like retracing our steps back to the Untitled Crusade or anything like that. It's starting off right where the original Vigilus campaign left off. Original Vigilus campaign was 2 books, and it went into very fine detail for each mega sprawl or whatever they call it.
What's kind of interesting is I vaguely remember someone saying at the beginning of all this, saying that there would be a 3rd Vigilus book, and then it didn't show up. And so I'm wondering if this had been scheduled earlier, but then they bounced it back.
Like some of the storylines. Yeah, that makes sense, because this is kind of spreading the story out to include the entire Nachman Gauntlet, which we did talk about. Like, there was someone who was, I don't know, I don't want to reveal it if it's internal or not, but like, you know, we were expecting them to go into some of the night worlds and stuff that are that are along this path. Like, there's a Imperial Night World on one end and a Chaos Night World kind of in the throat at this end. So yeah, I think that there might be some credence to what you're talking about. So like, there's just like little fragments of these factions that remain, and the gauntlet is still there. And I think there's no real danger of Abaddon having an ultimate victory here, because the Nachman Gauntlet is too good a plot device to get rid of right now.
Yeah.
There's no way Vigilus is actually going to be destroyed, because we need this lifeline between the Imperium Sanctus, Imperium Noctis, I think, is going to be super important going forward. As I talked about, I think on Chris Morgan's show, the Librarius, I really think we're going to be expanding in Imperium Noctis soon, at least before too long. Start talking about the Blood Angels and stuff like that, and the Eastern Fringe. So anyways, I digress. The rift is still like ebbing and flowing, sometimes engulfing the worlds and systems, and then they reveal them again. We saw that in some of the novels where one of the novels, A Forge World, got eaten up and then spat back out. It was just awful when it came out. The effects of the rift reach far beyond it. You know, some of these other novels we read, like worlds that are far from the rift, even like light years and light years away. If you look at the rift, you could go crazy. Like, there's laws requiring that you not look up, right? So this world is in the mouth of the beast, as it were. It's almost impossible to totally avoid it. So you're still being affected by it. So parts of the Vigilus system seem to spend at least part of their time in heavily rift affected space, according to the maps, or the maps are bad. There's stories from all the regions in this book, and not just Vigilus. I think that's kind of the point. This is trying to expand it a little bit. They talk about Vigilus being this beacon in the warp. So throughout the book, you have stories of why people are coming to Vigilus. Well, they see this beacon. That's like kind of this mini Astronomicon, which it might be this world of Hearthlack, which we'll talk about later. So the maps and books in this one are real, in the charts too, like the force structure and everything are really vague. They really try to get this esoteric feel. Like, they don't want anything to be concrete. And I think a lot of fans prefer that. They prefer not to be told all the details, because the details kind of snuff out a little of the romance of the setting, I think.
Well, that and the chaos that would be occurring is more real, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, for instance, a lot of us are watching the Ukrainian stuff that's happening, and we're seeing like almost fog of war. Even though we have television constantly, there's still stuff that's being brought in and out. So historically, you know, going through and not having certainty is the right thing. If that makes
it's a more credible way of providing the information. I think you're right. Still, I'd wager the gauntlet is at least 25 light years long as the crow flies, like without the twists and turns. Yeah. So there's no way you can actually use sublight drive to get through it. You have to jump. Yeah. You have to. It would take you decades to get through. So imagine these ships jumping basically like with the warp incursions within spitting distance multiple times through this gauntlet.
The orcs wouldn't care.
Well, no, they don't care.
The orcs don't care. Come on.
But for the rest of us, it's sort of a danger close warp jump.
It is. It's really bad. Multiple warp jumps. So just keep that in mind. Like when you just go through the Knockman Gauntlet. Like there's no just going through the Knockman Gauntlet.
Well, anything that says you're going through a gauntlet automatically should be, this is not good. That should be like
exactly.
Big red flag saying, someone's going to get hurt. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not the Knockman interchange.
That's the Knockman Express.
We should install a hyperspace bypass here. Can we call the Vogons to clear this out?
Only if they bring some poetry with them. Okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for really nailing that one, Jason. I appreciate it.
See, not Tolkien, but Adams. Yeah, I'm good there. Shows my nerdiness. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So after summarizing the original 8th edition story, the book does go on to talk about how every part of Vigilus is in dire straits. We'll go ahead and change that term that you have there. You're welcome. And actually, what's funny is in dire and straits, then through the gauntlet. Yeah, that actually has a nice little pun to it. Listeners, if you can see Adam's expression, he's wanting to stab me right now.
No, I was just trying to think of the lyrics to that Dire Straits song to make it even worse. I don't know.
Money for Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sultans of Swing.
Beverly Hillbillies. Okay. Moving on.
But that's the Weird Al version. Okay. So anyways, a lot of the more elite troops have withdrawn to more pressing engagements, leaving Vigilus to be fought over by both sides by the B team and the C team, and the water boy and the third string water boy, etc. So anyone who can pick up a bolter and carry it is now fighting for this area. So the fragmentation occurred not just due to the absence of Abaddon, who left aboard the crippled Vengeful Spirit, which that's not a phrase you hear very often since the
elves flew their spaceship into it and shot a missile.
Okay, fine. It'll grow back, whatever.
Well, it literally will grow back.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's like, welcome to the warp. We'll grow it back better. It'll be great. Just be careful of the carnivorous plants. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but because of the rumored death, he left aboard the crippled vengeance spirits. But because of the rumored death of Marnius Kalgar, which that was kind of a shock. Fortunately, his absences created a vacuum filled quickly by zealous Ministorum assets. What a shock! Led by Canis. Oh man, I don't even know how to pronounce that.
That's
name.
For you, jerk.
Hrathnar.
Yeah.
Okay, of the Order of the Bloody Rose, which they do have an army of Renown in here, which seemed to appear in great numbers from out of the Rift itself. Well, yeah, of course.
Well, they zeroed in on the beacon. That's why they showed up. They were like, they're kind of, if you look at the map, the world that they were on is like surrounded by the Rift with a tiny little channel out of it. It's almost like their system is anchoring reality, which let's be honest, is probably what's happening. Their system, their faith, the faith of that system is probably keeping the warp at bay.
What's funny is I was playing a Crusade game that kind of fell apart during COVID, but we had set up the Inquisition Wars on a system that had basically been choked off by warp storms, which this is very similar to. And we just had a whole bunch of Inquisitors fighting for, they're Inquisitors. What do you expect? You put them in like a closed system together. It's like putting a bunch of cats in a bag and shaking it, which don't do that, people. Thank you. Sorry.
I mean, and with your Ordo Chronos Inquisitor just standing off to the side on a building, rubbing their hands together.
Yeah.
Like the meme of the guy hiding behind the tree.
Who can I steal next?
Although many factions still haunt the region, the big story is still the Imperium versus Abaddon. He's spread his war to many fronts within the region of the Gauntlet, although this has spread him thin, it also has done the same to the Imperium. It's what's drawn all the Space Marines away, right?
Yeah.
So when you do that, that favors the side of the battle that cares the least about collateral damage. Like, oh, they're hiding here, we'll just bomb it. It's fine. Which I think is going to be a problem for the Imperium, which it eventually is a problem for the Imperium. Chaos is basically winning on every other front. Also drawn to the Vigilus War, this is like kind of the big protagonist of, at least of this text, is the Ordo Malleus Inquisitor Erasmus Cardivolnus. He was hoping to investigate and eliminate the threat of all the Noctilith crowns on Vigilus. With him, he brought a combined arms force called the Black Iconoclasts. Everyone, including the Styges tech priests on Vigilus, was loath to deal with Cardivolnus for obvious reasons, but he tended to get the job done because he's a jerk. It wasn't long before he was setting to take care of Noctilith crown problem. Unfortunately, the heretics were cranking out crowns faster than he could destroy them by himself. He decided to use the fear of the Inquisition as a tool to rally the disparate forces of the Imperium on Vigilus, and upon his victory in the Demon Forges of Stroval, had the survivors executed by his Black Iconoclasts. I really feel like at this point it's really stupid to execute people who have witnessed chaos stuff, because there's one in the sky all the time. I feel like this is just stupid at this point. Why are we still doing this?
It's bureaucracy. They haven't gotten the memo to stop doing that.
I don't know. I think it's dumb. But
There's Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
If you have the book open, please open your hymnal to page 21. He's the store anniversary model. There's a really nice piece of artwork. I'd actually forgotten about this store anniversary model, but man, it is a cool model.
Yeah.
I'm actually have to go look for it.
It's a gorgeous model.
Yeah.
We have a Warhammer store here now too, so if anybody wants one, let me know. I'll pick it up on our anniversary.
Yeah, talk to me about that, because let me see. Man, I hate having to pronounce that name. Cardivolnus had to make up lost ground and make bigger pushes on multiple fronts across Vigilus. So in order to do this, he bound as many of the more fanatical and useful forces to his coronal war, including the best and most fervent Astra Militarum and PDF forces, as well as the newly arrived Canonist Hrethnar of the Bloody Rose and Canonist Blaze of the... Is it really Blaze? Yeah. Okay.
Blaze, yeah.
Of the Order of Our Martyred Lady.
And she was there to begin with. She was the leader of the Ministorm forces prior to the arrival of Hrethnar.
So it's interesting because we keep talking about how they keep creating these Noctilith crowns, and some of the GW artwork and maybe not even the artwork, but the model pictures and whatnot show this double Noctilith crown that they've built out of at least two of them. Right. And I keep looking at it and going, okay, how much does a Noctilith crown cost? how much do two? Do I hate myself this much?
If you were a GW employee, you'd be on buy one, get one. So,
well, if you're working for them, you're not even buying it. You're just building it and walking around going, I'll take this toy and that toy. And yeah. Anyways, he's Cardivolnus basically sent them all out on missions to eliminate the Noctilith crowns across the planet's surface. He left them to use whatever tactics best befit their skills and target, which means he's actually probably a decent manager. Cardivolnus himself led the attack.
A manager who executes all his employees at the end of the day.
Yeah, but he lets them do what they need to do to get it done, and then he goes ahead and, he's still following orders from corporate. Huh?
Yeah, right sizing.
Right. Ow. He himself led the attack on the word bearers. The text does describe his ability to literally rip a demon from the possessed body of an Astartes warrior. Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty great, actually. I'll buy that for $1.
So, and as he did this, he stoked the belief in his forces that their deeds were holy. Yeah, that would probably do it. He knew how valuable belief had become since the coming of the Great Rift. It wasn't just a calculated decision, though. He truly believed the Emperor was looking down upon them, blessing and guiding them.
Yeah. So again, we're kind of hammering home this physical manifestation of faith, which shouldn't come as any surprise to us after the Phil Kelly novel, the Phil Kelly Dark Angels novel. Have you guys read that one yet?
Mm-mm. Not yet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoiler that one, but it's freaking wild. So the extreme piety of the Imperial forces came to a head. Even so, it's like there's a point of diminishing returns to this kind of thing. Even in its most tepid state, the Imperium is a death cult.
Yeah.
And on Vigilus, buoyed by the sainthood of fallen Calgar, which we were told he got Primaris, but
I love that this whole line is basically the Ultramarines didn't use their grown-up words and tell everybody that Calgar's fine. Yeah. And there's this entire Calgar martyrdom fanaticism movement that is entirely the Ultramarines didn't send out a memo that was like, no, guys, it's cool. We're just going to take him home, going to fix him up. He'll be back. This whole thing is just like the Ultramarines forgot to tell their allies.
And there's even a relic.
Dead. And that's
there's even a relic where they call him, one of the relics is named Saint Calgar's something or other.
Dude, they renamed the giant church on Hrathnir after Saint Calgar, the fallen Saint Calgar. Like,
which, serious? If there's anything Marnius Calgar wants, it's a fanatical cult devoted to his death.
Right? So it wasn't isolated with the dregs of society, but with the Sororitas and machine cult as well. So everybody wants to martyr themselves on the pyre of what's left of Vigilus. So it reached a crescendo during the collective prayers of millions of citizens in their darkest hour with the arrival of Saint Celestine.
Oh, she's back. Okay.
Yeah, she came back and she's on Vigilus, but she had her own kind of idea of what she wanted to do. Dontoria was, at this point, if you recall, that's the location where the forces, like multiple Nurgle forces, were fighting each other. So there was the Death Guard, but then there were also the Purge, I think they're called. The ones who just want to kill everything.
Yeah.
Like they're not down with the life part of life and death cycle. They just want to kill. So they were actually fighting each other. Well, Nurgle won there, and Hrathnir and her followers, and Celestine went in there and started purging. And once they got a good lay of the land, they were able to bring whatever was left of Hrathnir's ships there in orbit above and nuke the place to cinders. There's more to send a message than anything else. Like right now, the smoke and fire from Dontoria is visible no matter where you are, whether it's just a haze in the sky or just a giant pillar of smoke coming from this continent. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, everything's fine here. All right, so with the surge of faith on Vigilus, the writers had the audacity to call a victory for the Imperium there. But this is 40k, of course.
Well, yeah.
So there's still orcs, chaos cultists, plague-infested gene stealer cults. Everything that you want in a nice, bustling little hive world. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's clear that the
Ecclesiarchy... why haven't the Star Children come to save us? What's happening?
Just wait. I mean, hold on. That's been retconned. So, so it's clear that the Ecclesiarchy holds the lion's share of the power now, which makes some Imperial factions uneasy, but one cannot argue with the results. Still, the rest of the region was fairly decimated by Abaddon's forces, and Vigilus is now an island of Imperial faith alone in the darkness. That kind of reminds me of the old Imperial Voxcast opening.
Oh, yeah. You're light in the darkness of the warp?
Yeah. So Abaddon has captured most everything else, and his lackeys have captured every vessel that has arrived to bring aid to Vigilus, so they have cut them off.
So yeah, they're this beacon.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's also a trap.
Yeah. Wow, so many IPs we could make comments about.
Mm-hmm.
The narrative does close with signs pointing to a future narrative on Daravar, a Chaos Knight world situated in the throat of the Gauntlet.
And we are getting a Chaos Knight upgrade soon, so I suspect we're going to be on Daravar. Me. Yeah, that's easy money bet right there.
Yeah, it is. So
Eric, did you happen to read through this section, like the narrative part of this?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think the assessment is here? It does read, and Jason, you obviously read it too. You guys,
not all of it.
Not well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the narrative in this one is a little bit better than the last one.
Yes.
The last one was not great.
Right. Yeah.
This is, I think, my favorite Vigilus book.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. And I think part of that is that so I really like how much time they spend sort of fleshing out the gauntlet as a concept, because basically what I like about this one is they leave it in a place where you can still play games here.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's still sort of a credible threat, because my problem with the original Vigilus books is, since they were very so strongly sort of Abaddon versus Calgar, everything else was sort of a side note.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, yeah, but if I didn't buy those two models, what am I doing here? And now you have much more of that eclectic. Yeah, you can be playing a piece together Imperial Guard regiment, or whatever, Demi Company of Imperial Fists is still here on the planet, or, the Dark Angels doing shady Dark Angel stuff.
I agree with you.
It's just they've left it a really good setting. They've kind of left it actually genuinely reminds me of like Cadia, where like you have this system, it's secure for now, ?
Yeah. I think you're hitting on the right note here, because there's a problem with the original Vigilus where, okay, this is it, we're done with this story, move on to the next story type thing. And that was a lot of the campaign books prior to that in 7th edition. And then the ones that came after for Psychic Awakening were exact opposite. So open-ended that the story had no conclusion at all in those books.
Yeah.
This provides a conclusion with a wide variety of sub-stories that you can build on for your own narrative and to continue the narrative. So I think this book does have a really great compromise between those two schools of thought. Speaking of little stories that you can use to fuel your own narrative, I have bulleted some of those here, and I thought folks would like to hear them. Just things that I thought were interesting. So Hearthlack is this small planetoid in the Vigilus system with a strong ecclesiarchy presence, and it features malfunctioning atmospheric generators, which have created this golden halo and trailing comma following its orbit. The golden planetoid has become this beacon of hope in the void, which is a counterpoint to the corruption of the rift. So the atmosphere is really toxic, but that doesn't stop the pilgrims from trying to breathe it in the hopes of having a holy revelation. And at first I'm like, this is really stupid, until I'm reminded that people eat peyote. Another one is the Corpse Rat King.
Among other things.
The Corpse Rat King is a former gang boss whose ragtag group put a few W's on the board against Heretic Astartes on Mortwald on Hyperia. So that's an army that you could build out of your Necromunda gangers and awesome muscle men, right?
Yeah.
Cult of the Pauper Princes overwhelmed the Night Lords and the Scourged, which is a Tzeentch CSM group, which we talked about, I think, the last time we talked about Vigilus.
Yeah, I remember talking about them before.
Yeah, that was a really neat story. Check that one out. Wardens of the Gauntlet. So this is a this is kind of their section on Space Marines in the Vigilus region.
What's interesting is we've talked about at least 1, 2, 3 of them.
Well, we thought the Castellans of the Rift were going to be like the stars of the next book.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, because I remember thinking, hey, these guys are kind of interesting. Yeah,
right. Yeah, we have those. They have holdings throughout the gauntlet, so they do these jumps. They're used to doing all these jumps throughout the gauntlet. And they have safe houses and supply caches throughout. And I think that they would be a really great star of a small, Garage Hammer campaign if you're interested in doing something like that or having a chapter similar to them. Angel's Defiance, they're the Dark Angel successor who's working on their own in secret in the region. Big surprise there. Black Templars, they don't really need a reason to take oaths and kill chaos. Riftstalkers, these guys hunt the rift like Orca hunting the shoreline.
That makes sense, though. They are a Raven Guard successor chapter.
Yeah, they wander around the region, like right on the edge of the rift, and hope that chaos incursions come out and they go mess them up. Our buddy Josh is building a Riftstalkers army, and it's awesome because it's this white scheme, but he's got super chaosy bases he puts them on. So the bases are all this miasmic melange of like pinks and purples and oranges and stuff.
Oh, good. That's how he's getting his other colors in. Okay.
The little purple and pink tufts of grass on there and stuff is really neat. It's a cool army. The Salamanders, they want to stop Abaddon's atrocities. The Sable Knights, they're a Blood Angels chapter seeking Baal and Imperium Noctis.
So I love the Wardens of the Gauntlet. This whole section, I think was I think I mentioned my favorite. Partially because, again, it gives people a bunch of room to play in sort of the Vigilus area without necessarily needing to play on Vigilus. You can have, and it pulls in a bunch of different chapters. Your Blood Angels, why are they doing this? They're trying to get home. The Black Templars are just there to, kick over things. Also, just my homebrew chapter from back in the day was a fleet-based chapter, and the moment I saw the 8th edition map with the Nocturne Gauntlet, I'm like, that's where they are. They're patrolling that nonsense. And I read this and I was like, oh my god, it's awesome. I have a crush on the Riftstalkers. They're amazing.
They're really cool.
They are really
and
cool.
I think it's just a really rich setting. And I think like you said, I think it would be really cool if you had a 3 or 4 game Garage Hammer Crusade for it to just be trying to get through the gauntlet.
Right.
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
It's just one of the Wardens of the Gauntlet forces escorting somebody through the gauntlet.
Oh, how cool would it be to do if you have a group of 6 people and it's kind of a similar victory condition as in this book, but with more dimension to it, where you count the light years from the mouth of one side to Vigilus, and whoever gets to Vigilus first wins.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
There's beer in Texarkana. Drop the hammer down and give her hell. I think that'd be fun.
Wow, we're bringing in all the old movie references today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Skipping ahead, Mortwald, Hivespall, if you recall, was a park. It was like Jurassic Park.
Oh, the Nephilim project. Okay.
We all know what just happened there. So it's all spreading out. And there's a story of a Catechin Jaggers Devilskins, who are the only ones who can navigate that region. And that army sounds awesome. Like Catechin Black Ops stuff sounds really cool. The Iron Warriors are using small vessels whose only purpose are to broadcast scrap code infections that were designed by Perturabo himself.
I love that. I love that little piece of lore.
I could definitely see Perturabo sitting at a computer with his mug of death coffee and coding scrap code. Now, it doesn't say whether this is new scrap code he's recently designed or old scrap code from the Heresy. I like to think that they're trying to tease a little something here, but who knows? So yeah, there's again, like I said before, there is a page for each Imperium, Chaos, and Xenos, but it doesn't have definitive numbers like they did in other books, because this isn't that kind of book.
Yeah, it doesn't have the classic order of battle where it's like this regiment and 37 tanks.
No, it's just a bunch of a-holes.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's cool. So I'm actually quite pleased with this book, certainly after the last stinker we had, as far as the lore is concerned. So folks, go ahead and give it a read. If you're not, you just heard all about it. So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about the On Your Tabletop portion of this book. Potty break, I need to have a potty break. I gotta pee, I've had a coffee, and some water, and some coffee, and then some coffee again.
Come here, boy, get the ball. Aw, come on, Max, get the ball. Mom, Max won't get the ball. He's lazy.
I think I know why your Zote is being lazy, Jenny.
Why, Mom?
Because you forgot to feed him Zotabix today.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, Zotabix contains all the nutrients and random animal parts a growing Zote craves. It not only provides our Zote with the energy it needs to play with you and protect our home, but it also keeps its chitinous shell fresh and shiny.
Oh, boy, I'd better feed Max his Zotabix.
Yes, you had.
Zotabix is made in part from grade
Max,
A
time for
Astra
dinner.
Militarum post-engagement byproduct and is infused with 112 essential vitamins
No,
and
Max,
minerals
down.
harvested from your Zote's natural habitat, the finest desert depths.
Ah!
Zotabix is available in any shopping center on worlds where Zotes are allowed or where the Imperium's inexorable influence has not yet reached.
Hey Archons, does 9th edition have you feeling like the Slith Party bus just doesn't have enough party for you? Well, if you want to put a little shock back into your shock brow, you need the Slith Party On! That's right, Archons. For 736 points, you can take 3 Archons, 12 Slith, and a Tantalus. It's the Slith Party On! Now I know what you're thinking. Couldn't I take Drazar, 15 Incubi, and a Tantalus, aka the Incubi Murder Boat, for 51 less points? Sure you could, but it wouldn't be the Slith Party On! But is it legal? Oh yeah! Is it awesome? Oh yeah! Is it any good on the table? No! It's the all-new Slith Party On. Sort of awesome. Party On! Really hilarious. Party On! It's the Slith Party On!
Welcome back. So, Vigilus Alone on your tabletop. One of the reasons I wanted to have Eric on, not just because it was high time we had Eric on to talk about an actual topic,
And we can make Brian jealous.
And we can make Brian. I think Brian. I think Brian will be okay. I don't think he minds. Eric, you had some strong opinions about the War of Faith campaign and some of the rules in here. So strong that I didn't read the post because I figured you just let us know how you feel here. And I appreciate that.
I have a gripe though.
Yeah?
Where were the Thousand Suns? There was supposed to be a book coming out at some point soon where the Thousand Suns show up, and I thought it was going to be this book, and it's not, and I'm annoyed. Sorry.
Well, they do talk about how the Abaddon gets a report that Magnus is happily assisting their machinations elsewhere. So,
okay, maybe that's coming up in a. I don't know.
Maybe soon. So there's there's a whole section on the ways to play, alliances, allies of convenience. Like that whole section is very similar to the previous ones, just helping the campaign master create the alliances going forward. And the interesting thing about the alliances in this one is that there are two. There's straight up two alliances that you do. Instead of spreading it out like in the other ones where it's like, well, maybe try to have only like 3 or 4 people per alliance or whatever. This is straight up Chaos versus Imperium.
Yeah.
And whether you're Orc or Eldar or whatever, you're either helping one or the other. You have to figure that out at the beginning. Now, I more like the idea of them being free agents throughout. But you really kind of need to be even handed with your assignment of players, or else it becomes pointless to. You don't want to over strengthen one side over the other.
Right.
And the 3 regions are Dontoria, Stroval, and Hearthlack. Dontoria is the Nurgle plagued continent that they burn. Stroval is the industrial continent that the Inquisitor puts down, because that's where a lot of the Noctilith stuff is being created. And Hearthlack is the poisoned moon, the beacon of faith. So there's a tracker for each one, which I thought was interesting, because in previous ones, each stage you get a certain number of points for winning the stage. And then as you go forward, the more stages you do, the more, in order to make it not pointless to play, for the underdog to play, the underdog still had the ability to win it all if they really won the last stage. That's kind of how they did it. Like the later stages were worth more points.
Yeah.
In this, each section, each war zone, you can only hold it so much, right? So you're either Imperium held, Imperium Ascendant, contested, Chaos Ascendant, or Chaos held. You can't get more held. There's no points holding it. You just hold it, right? And every phase you play, the more victorious you've been in each section, in each war zone, you will move the tracker towards your faction.
Yeah.
So if you have more victory war zone points in that section, you move yourself up 1 step towards holding it. If you have twice as much this phase, you move it up 2 steps. So if you start contested, so if the first round you actually have double the war zone points of someone, you'll actually hold it immediately. You can't more hold it though. So that's I think that's how they've decided to stop people from running away with the campaign right away, because there's a maximum to how much you can hold each section. There's always a chance that someone will be able to beat it back. The bigger games you play, the more Warzone points you get in that section. So, for example, if you just playing a game, you get a point, a Warzone point for just playing the game. There's no like minus points for losing the game. The bigger the game you win, the more points it's worth. So, for example, if you play an Onslaught game and you win it, you get 5 Warzone points. Still not insurmountable amount of points, but if you're only playing like 1 game a month, then yes, it is insurmountable. So you got to think about that. Maybe don't let your best player always play Onslaught games or something. I'm not sure what the answer is there. So as far as the campaign tracker, Eric, what are your thoughts on the like binomial we got going on here, Chaos and Imperium, and also the tracker itself?
Yeah, so I confess I was a little bit disappointed by it's Imperium and Chaos.
Right.
Especially in a book that's sort of like, well, there's just stuff going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vigilus is just kind of a mess. So I was a little bit disappointed by that, but this feels like, and it's sort of funny because you can watch, I mean, this happens with like the Forge World Horus Heresy books too. You can watch them sort of feel out different campaign systems and try to build sort of different things off it. This feels like sort of a very, like my first map campaign is how this feels. Is like, well, you've got the 3 sectors, you've got 2 sides. It's pretty easy to keep track of. It feels like a really straightforward campaign, which I like for sort of getting people into it. They've started pushing this idea that like you can play match play games in a campaign, and that's fine too. So I think this is a good sort of step if you're sort of trying to get people into campaign play. I do think the advantage of sort of, as you said, that you can only hold it so much. Like once you've held it, it's held.
It's held.
There is no like double held. I think because you only have 2 factions, you have 3 sort of zones, and you can only held. I think it lends itself to a fairly equivocal outcome, which I think is good for campaigns. I think one of the ways campaigns dies is when one side goes, we just should stop playing. Like there's no point in us being here. And so I don't think, unless you have either incredibly unbalanced factions or 1 or 2 really good players who happen to be on the same faction, like, I don't know, both Custodes and Tau players all picked Imperium for their faction. I don't think you'll get one side holding all 3 things.
No. And if you're a good campaign master, maybe those ringers, you switch them partway through the campaign or ask them to say, hey, can you come up with like a narrative reason why you might switch sides here?
And like they do things, they have the sort of standard, you can put your thumb on the scale for some of these if you need to, which from a GM perspective, like I do that in my campaigns. I give out secret agendas, and the side that's losing, their secret agendas are easier to accomplish.
Fair. Yeah, no, that's an awesome idea, dude.
But like I like the campaign system, but it's not particularly rich.
I think going on what you just said, I think the thing you first said when you started talking, I think this is a good system, a good binomial system, but not for this book. I think this would be better in a different book where there actually is a clear if you clear 2 factions that are fighting over something for a smaller group of people, or even just 2 individuals who like playing Crusade with each other. This is actually almost a perfect system.
Yeah.
For that kind of play. For Vigilus, which ostensibly has dozens of factions all fighting for different reasons, this is kind of a bad system.
Yeah, that was sort of my feeling on it, was this is a good system in the wrong book. Right.
Well, it's cool. It comes with like a map and stuff, which is nice. So it has war zones. I like one of the war zones, and I only like it because I wanted to try it out in different books where it showed up. So Dontoria isn't one of them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's got an interesting like once per turn reroll mechanic for Imperials, right, and a corruption mechanic for Chaos. I think it's kind of lazy. And Hearthlack that's the holy war zone.
So you like Storball?
Of course I like Storball. Shut up.
Of course. I mean, I do. I look at it and go, that's perfect. That's the one I would play on. Yeah, Imperial Alliance gets +1 to their combat attrition on Hearthlack, and Chaos Alliance attacks against characters
add 1 to their attack's hit roll. These are stupid. Like they're nothing compared to what we had in Psychic Awakening, the last Psychic Awakening book. If you want real war zones, that's what you look up. And also throughout like a lot of these, what do you call them? White Dwarfs have some great ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are garbage.
Those two to me felt unimportant enough that I would forget they were there.
Yeah.
Especially like Hearthlack. I just don't take combat attrition tests enough to be like, I need to remember that I have a bonus to combat attrition tests.
Yeah. Now, Stroval, on the other hand, is a system we saw in, I think, the last mission pack. I think it was the team one, if I recall correctly. It was either the team. No. Yeah, it was like a laser, whatever the case. We'll talk about it. So there are 2 groups of 1 through 6 markers placed on each of the there's 3 markers placed on each edge.
Yeah.
Half of them are marked 1 through 6, and then the other half are marked 1 through 6, and you and your opponent roll a dice and you draw a line between those 2 numbers. And it's like a fissure opening up on the ground, or a laser blast shooting across the ground, or something. You draw a line. Yeah. And on every unit under that line suffers D3 mortal wounds. If you're going to do a dumb mortal wound dealing mechanic in a game, I like this one. I think it's neat. Like I said in the when we talked about the mission pack, a 5+ is not enough, in my opinion. Either do it every turn, or make it like a 4+ to make it interesting.
Yeah, that's right. We did. That was the thing that we had come up with as the.
Yeah, we whined about that one.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
But this is something that we would both like. This is right up our alley of the hey, look, dumb, senseless violence that we can't control.
Yeah,
Yahtzee. We'll do that.
And it's usually boring, like orbital bombardment. What an imaginative mechanic for a narrative game.
Yeah.
But this one's actually an interesting way of doing it, I think.
And I think the mechanics for this are also really adaptable to basically anything that is sufficiently dangerous and unguided. So like if you wanted to do like, I don't know, the Imperial Navy has just started having Marauder bombers just carpet bomb this because your position is lost. Yeah. They're not real worried about who they're dropping bombs on, just there. I think you could do this, as you mentioned, industrial lasers or things like that. Like if you're fighting in a shipyard, like Warlord Titan-sized welding laser just occasionally crosses the battlefield. I think this is by far the best one, and importantly, this one comes with markers, so you'll remember it. Yeah, and that is always my environmental effects thing. Is I need some sort of visual signifier to remind me that at some point in the command phase or whenever it is, I need to remember to do something.
Right. Oh, and I forgot to mention, because this is tectonic instability, they also add a debuff of half moved characteristic for models that get hit by this as well. Yeah. And you can do the same thing. You can switch that out for something else for whatever you're doing.
All of this excludes aircraft units, which is one of the few times it's good to be an aircraft in 9th edition.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, if we're doing an orbital bombardment type scenario, like a Lance Strike, maybe take that out of there.
No, because you've turned the ground to glass. You don't want to go through and hurt your little footsies as you're trying to get across it.
You can adapt this. I think we had one in Beyond the Veil where this came up first, where it was buildings that you drew lines between because they were arcing electricity. You could do roads. So if you have a map that just has roads, instead of like doing the markers like this, just say, okay, Electric Avenue's getting hit this turn, or Main Street's getting hit this turn, or whatever. You don't actually have to do the numbers. Instead, you could choose some other thing that draws this line. But yes,
Stroval you do, however, have to call the road Electric Avenue. That's in the rules.
That's literally in the rules.
You got to rock down too.
Yeah. So we've got 3 legendary missions, of which I've played 1.
Mm-hmm.
Purging of Dontoria has 5 objective markers associated with train features. I always like missions that the objective markers actually are represented by train features, and they're set up by the defender. So the attacker can set the train features on fire. This is one of those where I feel like it might be a little easy to set the train features on fire. You don't. All you have to do is be within an inch, or within range, and perform the action.
Yeah.
Even if the enemy is also within range. So you really have to cap those train features in order to stop them from catching fire. This is one of those I'd like to play it to make sure I'm not wrong about that being too easy.
Strike Force. How large is that again? I can't remember. 2,000
points or 100 power.
Actually, it'd probably be pretty easy to set everything on fire because you would definitely have 1 or 2 infantry units that are just
I think you're starting
starters.
I think you're starting 1 on fire on turn 1. I'm not sure about the rest of them. It really depends on the size of your train features and stuff like that. But since the defender gets to designate them, it's not so bad. You just have to be sure you got enough folks there to make sure.
And I think the key is the defender starts getting points for them not being set on fire.
That's true. No, you're right about that. You're going to get a lot of points starting on turn 2 for the defender. So, and this is what we had in this next mission, Crowning of Stroval, when I was playing with John. None of these tell the defender to go first or the attacker to go first, so you have to roll for it. Again, which is just seems weird to me. In the Crowning of Stroval, I can't remember if I went first or John went first. I think I went first, but I wanted him to go first. And in this one, there's a chevron deployment for the defender and just a really deep deployment zone for the attacker. The attacker's starting 5 inches. The attacker's starting 5 inches from the middle objective. Like, it's real close. You can be within 10 inches of each other in this one. And you're trying to destroy these 3 objective markers in no man's land in order to deactivate, like totally deactivate the Noctilith Crown. And in this one, I felt like, even though this one is kind of the opposite of the other one, where you can't start the action if there's enemy units also within range of the nodes. And it felt like it was going to be too hard for him, and it almost kind of did feel too hard for him when I did it. Either that, or it was because he was playing Grey Knights and I was playing Orcs, and that's always going to be hard, even though my Orc army is pretty elite. I think that's always going to be tough for him to start performing actions on. I mean, like, I guess I'll just throw a bunch of grots on this objective so you can't burn it again. So again, I was scoring points for them not being burned, and he was scoring points for them being burned progressively. I feel like if the tides were, if he actually went first, he would have definitely burned that center marker right away. And it would have been a little more even. I'm not sure.
I think it really depends, as you said, sort of on what you're playing. Because, like, if you look at the deployment zone in the map for this, the attackers start 11 inches away from the farthest energy node marker. So if you've got jump troops,
you're doing it.
You can rush this in a turn.
Yeah.
And just be there. If you get, and I think that's the thing, is if you get to go first, like, this is real good.
Yeah, you're gonna be burning one of those objectives. Unfortunately, this is one where it says one unit from your army can start perform this action at the end of your movement phase. So
so you can't burn all 3, but you can definitely sort of like shock and awe one of them and get on the other one. And I think that's the question, is also like who is playing these. So like my sisters are a very close combating army, so like okay, Like everybody go forward. If we can't clear people off these objectives, we've lost the game anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas, like, if you're playing a shooty army or something much more fragile or something much more slow, I could see this being tricky.
Well, I'm thinking from was it Cult of Duplicity for Thousand Suns, where you can reset up to 3 units before you start your turn in the first turn, and that's 9 inches away, so you would actually be able to possibly pick up 4 in your first turn if you roll well and you placed well.
And I'll tell you what, that's exactly what John did. He redeployed and forced a flank.
Yeah.
And it almost worked out for him. Unfortunately, the charge distance of a Orc Wa is just, especially one that's most. So my 40k friendly list is 15 Beast Snaga.
Friendly.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna do that list.
I thought it was friendly. It's 15 freaking cavalry models with 4+ armor save. Like,
yeah.
So you just go, but you do just go rocketing forward.
Yeah, you move. They're core, of course, because everything is core. So I don't. But that's a discussion for another day.
But they're also like T5 or T6. And you have that rule where you can only be wounded on 4 and above.
That's true. I do have that as well.
So
yeah, that's true. So, anyways, they rocketed forward and killed a knight. What are they called? Dread Knight in the first turn.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good. I should change my list. Anyways, that's
it's
beside
a fun
the point.
list though, and my Thousand Suns
list.
really don't care because we don't have to shoot you when you just pop your brains open.
Yeah, you do melt my brains, and I'm not running them as Death Skulls. So yeah, it's pretty great. Anyways, that was fun. And the force flank thing did almost work for him, and I think a good, nailing one objective right off the bat, forcing the flank, and getting that middle objective on turn 1, and then shooting for the second objective with your entire force on turn 2. I think that could work. Here, whether you're going first or second. And it's a fun one. Corruption of Hearthlack is a traditional everybody rush the middle type thing where there's an action to corrupt and purge the 3 objective markers in the middle. So it's kind of we've seen this before. Again, I go back to Beyond the Veil, where you have missions where you can both turn the objective on or off with an action, and it's all just progressives based on who's corrupting and who's purging these generators. And this is one that it's a legendary mission, but I'm not going to lie, it is definitely one that is generic enough you can utilize for just about anything.
This was the least legendary mission.
It really isn't very legendary.
I was like, okay. There's 3 objectives you can turn on and off, and rectangular deployment zones. Like, legendary missions.
Are you saying they phoned it in? Because I don't even think
hold on. It could be considered legendary because it's been in every
yes
edition.
This is the storied 3 objective no man's land objective. This was your father's mission and his father's before him.
A more elegant mission before the Age of Blasters.
From a more hold on, I'm gonna see if I can actually find a data acquisition. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. There's the mission. Good for us. We did it.
All right.
We did it. I love this. The Distilled. Oh, that's it. Distilled. That's the one. Anyways, moving on. All right. So we have in this one we have I kind of jumping around. We have some edicts that the campaign master can use, which I actually wanted to. I was thinking about this where you can kind of make it like some of the other campaigns where one specific location is more important than the others in this phase. So they talk about maybe making one location worth more points, or in that case, have one legendary mission worth more based on what phase you're in. And also there's concealed, they rehash the concealed deployment rules here. But they do make it not worth it for someone who's playing Genestealer Cult to use it, but the Genestealer Cult is concealed deployment is still better than this deployment, as it should be.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Yes, as it should be.
Definitely.
So, as usual, we go through and talk about some of these picks in here, like these lists of cool upgrades that you might enjoy. But
I love my Crusade Relic, the one that I chose. I absolutely adore it.
Awesome.
When we get to it.
We're each going to pick one that we like and talk about it. So, Eric, which Crusade Relic did you pick from this campaign?
So I picked the Armor of Storval, which is essentially a ruined piece of some sort of body armor the tech priests there were working on that has been recovered. It's Imperial Alliance model only. It improves the bearer save characteristic by 1 to a maximum of 2+, and each time an attack is made against the bearer, roll a d6. On a 4+, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. My army for most Crusade stuff is the Sisters of Battle, which are squishy T3 characters who do want to get mixed into combat. So giving one of them a 2-up save and a 4+, you hit me slightly less hard than you would have, is just one of those nice things. And I do like the idea that like someone pulled this like suit of experimental power armor out of the rubble, went like neat, and put the chest plate on.
It did a great job protecting the previous guy.
How dare you? What is your pick, Jason?
I love this one. The Burning Skull. I'm going to read the description just because I love the description.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
This blackened skull, found in the Storval after one of the Coronal War's deadliest battles, is pocked with mutation, barbed spurs of extruded bone growing from its obviously Astartes form. When words of power are spoken over it, glowing runes appear across its surface, and jets of flame burst forth from its empty eyes, like an accusatory stare of wrath from beyond the grave. I don't know. It's a pistol, and it's not only a pistol, but it's kind of like almost like a flamer pistol in that it's got one shot, but each time an attack is made with this weapon, if a hit is scored, draw a straight line between the closest point of this model's base or hull and that of the closest model in the target unit, then make one wound roll against the target unit and one wound roll against each other unit this line passes over. I think that is fun, and I would actually go through and model that on a character.
And those wound rolls are nasty.
Yeah.
Like strength 5, AP -2, and 3 damage is not to be idly ignored.
Yeah, that's not tickles. That's
Yeah, you got to be close, but hey, you know what? If there's a character in there now, then that's a lot of that could be.
Yeah.
That could be well, and if you're in this isn't. I was thinking this would be cool in combat, but it's the closest model, so it's not quite great for in combat. But man, that's a fun pistol.
I thought it'd be a great thing to model on a character or something. Just holding that skull, like a glowing skull out. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah, and how many hands can you find holding skulls? There's quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
I think I got one in my Wizards pack for Age of Sigmar. I picked the Vial of the Halo World because it's stupid. This small ampule filled in the Cathedral of St. Calgar with a small portion of the golden atmosphere of Hearthlack is held in great regard by the pious. Its radiance blessing their holy strikes. This water, it's a vial full of
toxic gas,
poison, literally just pollution. They have a vial of pollution, and it provides a aura, a 6-inch aura, and a reroll hit rolls of 1. It's so stupid.
Which I'm pretty sure is you hit better because your opponent is busy coughing because you just opened like a vial of chlorine and just like hear the holy breath of St. Calgar. And they're like, what is going on and why are my lungs melting?
As usual with things like this, I'm very upset that there isn't a consumption ability for it. So I feel like there should be for all of these that have consumables. You strike it from your Crusade record sheet and drink it and do something, or throw it and do something. In this case, I'd say either. Like if you throw it, like it's a grenade and it like chokes everybody, or if you drink it, you martyr yourself and provide like a major bonus for the rest of the game to the army or something.
That's very
cool.
Sisters of Battle of you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and get experience at the same time, clearly.
Yeah. It's also great.
As one does.
Didn't the Space Wolves have some sort of mechanic where you could slaughter like your wolf pack and leave them with one lone wolf or whatever?
Yeah, they had the old rules where essentially, yeah, you'd have units that were essentially this is the last survivor of their squad, and you just give them a bunch of gear and they're like, okay, buddy, head that direction.
This kind of reminds me
it's
of
gonna work
like
well.
that.
Yeah.
Or this whole idea of this consumption would be the same sort of thing there.
Oh yeah, remember the book we read, the one where where Magnus comes and fights on Fenris the first time around. There was that lone wolf who flew the spaceship. He was basically Han Solo, Space Wolf Han Solo, flying the black spaceship. He was cool.
Oh, I forgot about that.
We have Idiots with Flags. It's an ability called Banners of Renown.
Yeah.
And Banners of Renown is interesting.
No,
I was
not.
really excited. Okay, it's not interesting. I was really excited about it until I found out it's Space Marines only.
Yeah, that's what I thought it'd be cool until I saw it was Space Marines only. Because I was thinking, hey, I've got a banner bearer. I could do that with my 1,000 Suns.
I mean, I still think it's cool. It's just unfortunate that we didn't do other bannermen. Yeah. I would love my WoG banner guy to be way cooler. But again, this is something that I think we could extrapolate.
Yeah,
I think this is easily adapted.
Yeah.
I think I actually sort of liked this one partially because the Space Marines don't really have a great meta narrative currency mechanic right now.
They were the first book, right?
Yeah, and so
they don't really have one.
They don't get to build their city or their living saint, etc. So I did sort of like, we have a Space Marines player in our local group who keeps saying he doesn't have a 9th edition codex, and I keep having to tell him, yes, you do. It's just not very good.
Ow.
But like, like what he's missing is like, because our local play group, like, there's me and my sisters. There's an Admech, there's a Drukari. So like in his mind, like 9th edition codexes are OP nonsense and have those building mechanics, and he doesn't have one. And so I do like that they introduced this as something you can build around. And it also, I would just like to see ancients show up more in Space Marine armies. Like, they're cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they are cool, and I used to stick one next to my Hellblasters for obvious reasons. And then overcharge.
Stuff's gotta die.
Well, yeah. So for one requisition point, you can give an Astartes Ancient a big flag. The banner. So the flag bearer has a special damage effects table that they use instead of the usual out of action tests. And if you gain 3. The banner is destroyed and you remove that model. Yeah. But you can also use you can also repair that damage using upgrades.
I like that the flag and the dude carrying the flag are technically different entries.
Yeah. So you keep this renown tally for this model with the standard, and you increase their renown by doing stuff throughout the game, like moving the banner to certain places and like planting your flag. Let's see. Why don't I read them off? You get 1 for each of these. Being within range of an objective marker you control, with being within 6 inches of enemy units, the model actually destroyed an enemy character, give him the sword, I guess. The model is wholly within your opponent's deployment zone, so you brought it all the way over to the deployment zone, and it performed the standard action as part of the Honor the Standard agenda from Codex Space Marines. Also, you add 1 to the Renown tally if the model lost wounds but was not destroyed, or you won the battle. So you tally up all these points.
You can run numbers pretty quick then.
You could. You definitely could. There's a bunch of upgrades that you can get by spending them, and they're all different, which is nice. They're not like one. It's good that they have like a wide array of different powerful or not quite so powerful abilities. It's the Artisanal Ministrations, that's 10 points, and lets you remove a damage effect, which is, I'm glad that they had added that, because repairing wounds in Crusade is still one of the things that rankles the crap out of me. All right, Eric, which one did you pick?
So I picked Symbol of Purity, which is 20 points. And that's the fluff for it is often represented as a gilded halo that radiates an auric light. These sculpted symbols reflect the purity of the deeds illuminated upon the banner and blind any who stand against the Emperor's chosen. Those with the temerity to aim at the warriors marching below this banner find themselves averting their gaze. What this does is, while an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from that unit's attack roll. That's a decent ability. One of the things I like about it is a lot of the banner abilities and some of the sort of traits you have here are definitely pushing your banner bearer forward. You want to be not necessarily in the thick of things, but nearby. So I like the idea that they do have this sort of defensive aura that will apply to sort of getting your banner close. Like if you have the banner bearer with a unit of blade guard, suddenly this is actually sort of a big deal to try to push them off something. So I just liked that. And also, gold and shiny.
No, I love that. Yeah, and if this banner is going to be so important to you, you definitely want to do some things to help protect it.
Yeah.
So, Jason, would you... That's awesome. Would you pick?
Tassels of Duty.
Yes. Sorry.
There's
a few things. There's a few things going on in that title that make me happy.
Yeah. All right. So golden cords or streamers hanging from this banner or its stave, each woven in a complex trifold braid, denoting the intertwined responsibilities expected of a warrior of the Adeptus Astartes: the destruction of their foe, the defense of their allies, and and completion of the mission granted by their commander, each filtered through the unique traditions of their chapter. Okay, defense of their allies. I mean, come on.
Black Templar only have 2 bands.
Obviously, I was thinking that, and Grey Knights obviously don't have that band either. Yeah. So anyway, the bearer has the following ability: Tassels of Duty. It's an aura. While a friendly core unit that is performing an action within 6 inches of this bearer, that unit can make ranged attacks without that action failing. Which, one of the things I've had gripes about is, you send a unit into action, some sort of action, then they're useless the rest of that turn. And so that always kind of bothered me. So, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The one I picked was the Energized Staff. Again, this is just making me so happy. They're putting electricity through the pole. So you get 1 extra attack, and if you hit, you do D3 mortal wounds. It's awesome. I love it. And you can also model it with some sweet electricity effects from like a wizard or something like that. I think it rules. I love it. Or you could just paint the pole in glow effects.
Yeah.
Sure.
It could happen. So the win, man.
Army of Faith. This is kind of the big one in here, I think. And Eric has opinions.
Eric does have opinions. This is where Eric gets a little bit salty.
That's okay.
Eric has opinions. So, Eric, tell us about the Army of Faith Crusade Force, would you?
Sure. So the Army of Faith, if you remember the old White Dwarf Torchbearer fleet, Army of Renown, this is a very similar idea. It's essentially a soup army. You can include Adeptus Astartes, except for Deathwatch, Adeptus Ministorum, and Astra Militarum. And essentially you combine them. They all get the Army of Faith keyword, so you can have, a battle-forged army. And there's some nice parts about this. So, for example, to make a detachment, you have to include a troop unit if you're going to include any other units. So you can't just have, like, my Black Templar now have a Leman Russ. You need to have at least a squad of guardsmen along with that. That part's great. And they don't break the detachment abilities for the army. The tricky bit here is they might break the army purity abilities, the sort of anti-soup tech that GW has been working into all their armies. So the two that I'm the most familiar with and are the nearest and dearest to my heart is the Templar Vows and the Sisters of Battle Acts of Faith. The logic here is there's sort of, and this is where it gets into this might be a problem and it might not be. I think the whole keyword system has gotten a little bit away from GW. And so in these, this says that this Army of Faith detachment counts as an Adeptus Sororitas, Adeptus Astartes, and Astra Militarum detachment. Now, here's the question. If you have, for example, a detachment that has Black Templars and Sisters of Battle in it, and it says it counts as both, there's two arguments to be made here. One is things like Acts of Faith says every model in this army has to be Sisters of Battle for Acts of Faith to work. But if you go to the Black Templar Codex, which is sort of the newer of the codex, it says a Black Templar detachment is a detachment with all Black Templar models. And so the question is, does counts as mean essentially you count as a Black Templar detachment, therefore you count as having all Black Templar models? Or are you still checking at the model level? So normally this flows up. You check at the model level, and if all the models basically say yes, you're a Black Templar detachment or an Adeptus Sororitas detachment. This is flowing down. It's saying you are a Black Templar detachment. What does that mean for the models in that detachment? And you start using phrases like the terms of this condition flow up and down, and you start getting the Pepe Silva board, conspiracy board type thing. And the problem is whether or not this turns off those abilities is a huge deal.
Yeah. I think for my purposes, I feel like the intent is clearly to let you use your detachment abilities. Yeah. But not your army-wide abilities, That's my thought too. Not your army abilities, which I think I think they're hoping that some of the army ability, like the cool abilities that you get from the Fervor and Retribution stage, makes up for not having army abilities.
And my problem is they don't.
Yeah, which they probably don't. No. Which when you're doing a mixed army from different factions, it behooves you to be conservative with the abilities that you provide them. Yeah. But at the same time, and also you don't want to stack on abilities in addition to those other ones. So I think if there's a miss here, I think it's well, why don't we get into it? Why don't we talk about what you get for doing an Army of Faith Crusade force, shall we? So you get religious fervor, and you get them through various deeds like winning or losing games. You lose games, you lose with fervor. You win games, you gain fervor. You tie. I think if you tie, you gain. And I can actually I have a note here. I think this might get confusing if you're doing Wars of Faith mission pack, because there's other faith abilities that you add on top of that. Yeah. And if you're playing Sisters of Battle, it gets even crazier. Ooh. You get overlapping faith resources that you have to keep track of. Yeah. Which is just keep that in mind. So there's these two stages. So you start off in the fervor stage, and you can graduate to the retribution stage, and you pivot between those two things. So you start in the fervor stage, and you revert back to it if you dip to 5 or less religious fervor. Winning is good, but losing still gets you points. Fervor phase specific agenda, and which you have access to during this phase. Can you talk about that, Eric?
Yeah, so one of the things I really like in this is you essentially get an agenda per phase, and then also some of the relics change depending on what you're doing. So the fervor stage one is called Reclaim the Relic, and this feels like the get the relic thing that every army has, but it's not. So essentially, if you get to the relic, you can pick it up, and it's sort of the old school the relic objective. Like now your army is carrying this, the bones of some saint, or a bit of Saint Calgar's armor or whatever, and you're carrying it around. And you basically, if you control the relic objective marker or the model carrying it is still alive, you get 3 religious fervor points. So basically, you grab the relic, you try to hold it. This is a good way to power up that religious fervor sort of ability. There's a couple ways to sort of build that up. It's just really good.
Okay. Also, during the fervor stage, your army-wide ability is +1 leadership, and every time you shoot or fight, you reroll hit rolls of a 1, which is interesting. If not quite imaginative, it's interesting. Okay, so when you can enter the retribution stage at the end of a battle where you have 20 or more religious fervor points. You're not required to. You can stay in the fervor stage if you want. But if you move to the retribution stage, your ability changes. Your army-wide ability changes. You add 1 inch to your move characteristic, and if every time you're selected as shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound roll when resolving the unit's attacks. So you lose the reroll 1s to hit, and you replace it with rerolling a wound roll because you're angry. You have crusading wrath. So what do you think about the agendas and stratagems for this one?
So I really like the agenda for this one. I think the agendas are probably some of the best written parts of this. This one is called Bringing Light to the Darkness. And essentially, if you select this agenda, you keep a, quote, bringing light tally for each Army of Faith unit in your army. You add 1 to that unit's tally each time that unit destroys an enemy unit that is within 12 inches of it. And you get 2 if that enemy unit was within your opponent's deployment zone. Each unit gains 1 experience point to a maximum of 3 for each mark on its Bringing the Light tally. And for every 5 marks total, you get 1 religious fervor point, which will stop you from sort of dropping that level. This is a really interesting one because this is one of those great sort of army-wide XP boosts, because it's just like kill something within 12 inches. And if you're playing some of the logical armies to be in this, so Black Templars, Sisters of Battle, any of the other sort of religious fanatic Space Marine armies, you're going to be killing a lot of things within 12 inches. And you can push some deployment zones. This is one of the things where you need to be sort of thoughtful in advance with things like the Planet Strike missions, because if your entire map is the enemy's deployment zone, then every time you kill something, you get 2 XP, and that's awesome, but possibly a little bit strong.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But then the thing you get for all this, and sort of the idea of this thing, is you essentially get these mini stratagems where you spend out your points on essentially mini stratagems that do cool things. So like Divine Rage, you use this ability for a model in your army makes a melee attack, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that attack.
Right. These are the divine retribution points you've been collecting this entire time during the fervor stage. Now that it's time to deliver retribution, you're going to blow all these points on beating up the enemy.
You can spend these points on killing stuff. So Divine Fury, 1+ points, which is always a promising little note there. Use this ability after making a charge roll for an Army of Faith unit. Add the number equal to the result of the number of religious fervor points spent to gain this effect. So if you miss that critical charge by 2, spend 2 fervor points, and you made it, because you're real angry now. They're fun. They're good. And then you draw these down, and then once you dip below 5, you head back to the fervor phase, and you sort of go back and forth between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is neat. I think that's fun, and I would like to try it before I buy it. The +1 leadership is not great, but also rerolling ones to hit, or rerolling one. Sorry, I said rerolling ones to hit earlier. I apologize. Rerolling one of the hit rolls is okay, but probably not as good as whatever army-wide ability you had prior to taking this. Certainly. So it's very interesting. Okay, so are you thinking about giving this a try? Do you have any ideas for making it better? I mean, I guess just allowing your army-wide abilities would be one thing.
So here's sort of what I'm wrestling with for this, and this is where I've gone back and forth. I've sort of polled some people and never really got to a place where I'm comfortable with it, because sort of as you said, when you're making like soup armies and narrative crusade armies, the goal is not to create really overpowered combinations. Mm-hmm. And it feels like just spackling this on top of the rules for those armies is like, so like soup your stuff and also get better.
Well, and imagine an army that already has reroll 1 hit roll.
Yeah.
So now you gotta reroll 2 hit rolls?
Yeah. Or like imagine, I mean, like the thing for me is just like, so now I only have to bring 1 5-woman unit of Battle Sisters so that I can take Battle Sisters. The rest of my troops can be assault intercessors. Mm-hmm. Cool. Like that's great. Mm-hmm. So like just spackling it on top of this, I think is too powerful. But on the other hand, I think the one like the Templar Vows, I can cope with giving up, because like a 5-up army-wide invulnerable save is great, but like, okay, fine. I think the problem with the Sisters of Battle one is when you turn off Acts of Faith, you also turn off Miracle Dice generation, which means a bunch of your stratagems don't work anymore. A bunch of your abilities, like the aura abilities that your canonesses get, don't work anymore. You lose a lot. And I think it's not a good deal for that. Like you basically sort of cripple the Sisters of Battle, which is a logical army to have in this. Like if your Army of Faith army can't handle the Sisters of Battle, it wasn't written well. Right. And right now I think you give up way too much sort of core mechanics that are baked into that army in exchange for some things that are cool, but don't make up for that. And I think that's sort of my problem. I haven't figured out a way to fix it, because again, I think that if you sort of get overly clever with the argument about, oh, well, this counts as, which means it flows down. So all of these units are Black Templar units for this. Like if you start making that argument, whenever people start making arguments like that, I'm always like, yeah, no, that's not. GW doesn't actually believe in lawyers. Like that's not how this works. It's sort of the thing where like, if this was a tournament setting, you'd be like, oh yeah, this is going to get nerfed in like 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. So like, I sort of wrestle with this because I really, really want to like it. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's good enough. I think basically they've overshot soup, their sort of anti-soup tech enough that you have to have some really strong abilities to be willing to get over this. I think my sort of patch for this might be to allow Miracle Dice generation, but not Acts of Faith. So that at least you can sort of do the other things. So the stratagems where you come back to life or spend them to create mortal wounds auras and things like that. All of those need a miracle dice to be spent on them. And I think that's sort of the bare minimum patch I'd do. But I haven't quite figured it out. But I really want to play this army. What if
the I know that the whole point was to kind of create mixed detachments, but what if it were more like the White Dwarf one, where it's assumed you're going to have multiple detachments, and and just switch those army-wide abilities to detachment abilities?
I'd be fine with that too. If the answer is like, look, you need a full-on Sisters of Battle detachment, and that Sisters of Battle detachment gets Acts of Faith. And then, if you want to build a whole, if you want to bring a Black Templar patrol, sure, they get the Templar vows.
And you've spent 2 CP to bring that detachment, and you have to abide by the detachment restrictions.
Yeah.
That might just be the easier way to do it.
That might be the easier way to do it. Because one of the things is, like, what's weird about it is the strongest version of this as it's written is the non-soup version.
Right.
Like, if I just declare my Sisters of Battle army to be an army of faith, then this is just
get it on top.
I get points on top of.
Yeah.
This
is busted.
Which is what? Yeah. Like it's weird to be. It's weird to have, like, okay, so this is dire if you have the Sisters of Battle and the Black Templars in the Oops All Religious Fanatics army, but it gets real strong as long as you only take one of them.
Right.
It's sort of like, because that's the thing, is like,
thought that through.
Because if you're being, like, sort of cheesy about it, just play Black Templars and get more things.
Get +1 inch movement characteristic in the retribution stage.
Like, who amongst us doesn't like a +1 movement characteristic, or a whole new set of relics? And so I think it's not well written. In the spirit of this, like, I love this. It's a lot of bookkeeping, but if you're playing either Sisters or Black Templars, you've already signed up for a lot of bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to love this, and it doesn't work well.
I want to quote you, actually. This is something I pulled out of your document from the DMB Spring Crusade. And this is, I'm assuming you wrote this, and this is your quote. If you spot something that seems like an easily abusable edge case, the kind of thing that would win you a couple of tournaments before getting swiftly FAQ'd by GW, please just keep walking and try not to make eye contact with it. Anything that can be summed up on spiky bits as, with one lever trick, is a bad idea. First of all, I love that statement, but this statement directly looks at, how this is built.
Yeah.
It'd be easy to bust this without...
It'd be easy to bust this. Anything where I can make, like, what I consider a coherent argument for both answers is always one of those things that I'm like, maybe don't touch this. And so that's sort of my problem with it, is because, like, I desperately want to love it, and it's just it's not well written.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we're all kind of copacetic with our agreement on that one, and I think we've all provided ways of dealing with it, either by don't be a dick, or some good mechanical suggestions. As far as the thing that irked me a little bit, if you go through the trouble of creating specific war zones, I think it would behoove you to come up with cool benefits for either holding it or going for it. So, like, I think it would be great if there was some kind of benefit besides just winning the campaign for holding these war zones. In fact, I think
that Hearthblack is not mentioned at all. Is like, but what?
Yeah, if I think if the Imperium is actually not holding Hearthblack, they should get a benefit because they're so committed to taking it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think if there were a benefit to both armies for wanting to take a certain thing or holding it, I think that it wouldn't be a waste of space in the document to provide some kind of benefit, or even specifics agendas in specific zones as well. Again, I really feel like the war zones are just they're way too much of an afterthought here.
They're just counters.
Yeah, I
it
don't
would be
like
nice
that.
if they weren't.
Yeah.
We should talk about the relics, though, because the relics are great.
So, oh, yes, I am trying to skip ahead. I apologize. Yes, let us...
Page 89 on your hymnal.
Page 89 in your hymnals. We each picked a Crusade relic from this Army of Faith.
I do apologize for stealing yours, Eric.
Yeah,
Blood Raven, though.
It's fine. Eric, what one did you pick after Jason stole yours?
So I picked the Blood of St. Calgar because this is extremely extra, just as a narrative concept.
Like, he's not even dead,
It
guys.
is said that when St. Calgar was laid low by the despoiler, his blood flowed like a river. Following the battle, some of this divine blood was collected in small ampules by fervent adorants.
I'm getting better.
When the bearer holds one of the surviving phials tightly, a portion of St. Calgar's might is imparted, allowing even the mightiest foes to be struck down. This is just vials of blood.
Yeah.
And
it's literally just
not
blood.
his.
But the point is that they believe it is. And
yes,
they
but
believe...
this is like peak medieval Catholicism. Somehow we have 14 finger bones from this saint, but they believe it. And the whole thing I like behind this is like, but you believe it and it's enough. And so this adds +1 to the attacks characteristic of the bearer. When your army is in the fervor phase, this model, if this model is on the battlefield at the end of the battle, gain 1 religious fervor point because you're carrying around St. Calgar's blood because he died. And while your army is in the retribution stage, once per battle in your command phase, you can lose D3 religious fervor points. Until the end of that turn, add this to the result of the bearer's strength characteristic.
That's so fun. It's like a D&D relic.
Yeah, this is just a like once per battle. I'm pretty sure this is you drinking it.
Yo, yeah, sure.
And
then
and
it refills. You refill it with somebody else's blood and say it's Calgar's blood.
Possibly yours. Because now Calgar's blood is in you, so it counts. So
it's transubstantiation. Yeah.
Homeopathy thing.
Yeah.
But like
the more diluted it is, the stronger it is. I hope I'm not alienating any of my stupid listeners who believe in homeopathy. I mean, wonderful listeners. Gosh, I hope they're not Patreons. Anyways, Eric.
But imagine packing this into like a Black Templar's marshal.
Oh yeah.
Who suddenly just like, okay, I'm at 7 strength. Like, good luck. I'm at 7 strength before my weapons.
Yeah.
Like,
that's great.
And it's just like, I love it for the narrative, just ridiculousness of this is St. Calgar's blood. Like, what?
Oh,
like this poor guy's going to come back to Vigilus and be like, what?
You did what?
Hell is going on?
You did what in my name?
That's great. Jason, which one did you pick?
Blade of Retribution. I will say that the Blood of St. Calgar was my second choice. It was one of those I was kind of in between on. This large power sword has been variously identified as a double-handed blade wielded by Canis Herethnar's most senior paladin. The dueling saber carried by a warrior of the Black Templars as they fought the Black Legion at St. Savin, and the heirloom weapon of vanished Proctor Commanders Venedar. I love it that it could be all of these things, and yet it's probably belonged to some schlep who dropped it, you know.
It's definitely a holy sword. We're not sure whose, but it's holy.
Yeah.
When discovered, the broken blade was buried in the chest of a hulking traitor of Abaddon's Legion. So I guess it wasn't just dropped. I mean, it could have been dropped. Reverently gathered, the shards were laid before the altar of the Tower of St. Bartholomew, and a prayer of retribution spoken over the fragments. After Celestine's miraculous appearance, the sword was found reformed, glowing with an inner light, ready to destroy the foul heretics anew. Army of Faith replaces a blessed blade, blah, 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 blah. While the bearer's army is in the fervor stage, add one of the bearer's attack characteristics. While the bearer's army is in the retribution stage, change the weapon's strength characteristic to +4.
That is awesome. And it's already a strength +2, AP -4, damage 3 weapon. So it's
right.
Yeah. This is a Holy Avenger. It's great.
Yeah, it's real good.
And depending on who this is given to, I mean, you could be just chopping through everything.
it being a Holy Avenger, Eric, I really feel like that this weapon deserves. You know what this should have? This should have ignore invulnerable saves. It really should.
I mean, that's GW's favorite new tech. So why not?
Ouch.
You see, you stick it in a rail cannon, and then you fire it.
You shoot it like a Grotzuka. Yes, I'm down for that.
You put it in the guy's hand. You jam him in the rail cannon, and you shoot all of it. There we go.
And he points his sword for it. I like this.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's very Scott Pilgrim.
I picked the Penitence Band because I wanted to choose something that's a little interesting. This thin metal circlet taking the form of an ornate garland of thorned briars. Okay, this is getting pretty biblical. Is worn around the brow of one who feels that they have been found wanting in their duty to the Emperor. Responding to the warrior's fervent emotions, this psycho-reactive metal tightens, causing rivulets of blood to run down their face, the pain fueling their determination to right their perceived wrongs. Wow, I didn't actually read this description when I picked it. This even goes beyond like when I ran my D&D campaign. It was on actual Earth in the future because I was super into the Dark Tower series. Anyways, long story short, you could actually find the Lance of Longinus and all that fun stuff. This is a very similar energy. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, reroll a hit roll of a 1 and a wound roll of a 1. So reroll 1s to hit and wound. Pretty great. Yeah. Now, this one's interesting. While your army has 20 or more religious fervor points, the bearer has the following ability. So this relic rewards you for holding on to your fervor points. Yeah. Pious example. So this is like the character wielding this crown is like retribution cuckolding, like not cuckolding. What's the
this is just like super repentia.
Yeah, like what edging? This is they're edging with this crown. Wow, this has just got gross. Sorry. Pious example. Wall of friendly.
It's not even something I can like edit out either.
Friendly army of faith core unit is within 6 tantric fervor.
It's a god. You won't give up this digression.
I'm not. Each time a model in the unit makes a melee attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and a wound roll of a 1. So it's an aura of reroll both wounds and hits, which is pretty great. Okay. There's also a bunch of other stuff in here that other podcasts are going to talk about. There's new Space Marine data sheets. Which is good. It's got more malleable Space Marine characters, which is what you want. You want to be able to add more options as they produce more models. I mean, why not just do a multi-part character kit? But whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. We have a new Vanguard Army of Renown. I love this. If I were to do another Space Marine army, I would be very tempted to run a Sweet Raptors army or something like that with the sneaky Space Marine Army of Renown. Order of the Bloody Rose subfaction supplement. I take it you enjoy this.
Yeah. So what I like about this one is it's good but not great. So like it's not in the everybody's playing Bloody Rose now, although everybody is already playing Bloody Rose. There is some nice stuff, like they nerfed Retributors and then gave them a neat little agenda in this that helps them. Mm-hmm. There is one massive omission that is sort of, again, the like, guys, what's going on with this book? Again, sort of rules as written, this is definitely not in the spirit of the thing. You can't take St. Celestine, Morvenval, Astrid Thurga, a Dialogus, or the Medic, or the Triumph of St. Catherine in this detachment because they forgot the parentheses and except Sanctic units, close parentheses. That's obviously an omission, and like anyone who tells you otherwise is probably not worth playing. Yeah, but it is just like, guys, how did you fail to cut and paste?
I see. Yeah. So okay. So there is an issue with keywords in here. For your Crusade campaigns, it shouldn't be a problem. Actually, it really won't be a problem because you're not taking a lot of named characters. But for those other characters, it would be ridiculous not to be able to take them.
And like Astrid Thurger, you are potentially taking in Crusade campaigns because she makes your living saint become a living saint faster. But I mean, so the answer is this one's going to get omitted because this is a matched play detachment for one of the most popular orders for the Sisters of Battle. This is going to get FAQ'd real quick because you have just broken every tournament build in the game.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of questions about this book, and I think everybody should go ahead and take a few minutes out of your day to send questions to the FAQ team, because the more the F in FAQ stands for frequently, and the more of us who ask the more of us who ask the questions, the more they'll think it's important. Of course, there is an FAQ team, which I used to be on, and all of these questions get asked in that situation. And I'll tell you what, it does help when a lot of people are confused.
Yeah.
If not a lot of people are confused, they start to think, oh, is this just us being picky? No, it's not you just being picky. People are confused. The only thing I have to say about the Frontierist Theater of War, which I talked about this when we first got the book after the drop dead date, and I'll bring it up again. Why do we have area terrain with the light cover and exposed position abilities? Light cover, area terrain only provides cover if you're standing on it, and exposed position removes light cover. You can't get light cover if you're standing on it. What are we doing?
So
it's nothing.
Yeah.
It fixes it if you change it to a what is it? Oh, lost the word. Not area terrain.
Have you thought about sending this as a question to the FAQ team?
I have sent it as a question.
Possibly repeatedly with a number of different Gmail aliases.
Yeah, I mean, if it's what is it? It's not an obstruction. Whatever. Like the thing like random junk on the battlefield. If it's a random junk on the battlefield, you get a +1. You get light cover if you're within 3 inches of it.
Yeah.
So if you're standing behind it, you get cover. But as it stands, area terrain does not provide cover for you standing behind it. Only for standing on it.
Cool.
But it has exposed position.
But don't stand on it because it won't protect you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the Frontierist Theater of War is busted.
The models are great.
Oh, they're gorgeous. I love them. I would buy hundreds of them. I would just give them different
rules.
Just not those rules. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. Come back and close out the show.
This is David Annandale, and you're listening to Masters of the Forge, where they bring the world of Warhammer 40,000 to life on your tabletop.
This is Rob Sanders, and you're listening to the Masters of the Forge, where the world of 40K comes to life on your tabletop.
Oh, we've reached level 6.
Shall we?
Hey,
All
Quinn.
right.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Quinn.
What's he chewing on?
So.
Hi,
Hey,
Quinn.
Quinn.
What you chewing on, buddy?
Can you say hi? All right, and we're back. Well, another episode of Masters of the Forge has come and gone. I appreciate you showing up and hanging out with us, Eric.
Thank you for having me.
It was awesome. I think this is a good book. Not the greatest book, but all of the rules issues, the fact that we are narrative players means they're the least problematic of the book because we can just change it. Right? Isn't that funny?
That's
funny. I think it's funny.
Daddy button.
You can push all the buttons you want, buddy.
No, let's not push
them. Push the button.
You don't have to edit it. You can push whatever you want.
Push whatever. I don't have to worry about any of this. All right, cool. We already used those notes. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, cool. All right.
So next time we chat, it's going to be a battle report.
Yeah.
and we are probably going to record it at Adepticon.
Yes, we will. I'll need to take my recording unit with me. Cool. I can do that.
Yeah, I have this. Oh, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little upset that they messed up they changed some of the masking requirements and whatnot, but I already had COVID, so I personally can't give anyone COVID. I can't get COVID, so I really don't personally care for my purposes, but it is kind of annoying. I'm still gonna, if my opponent's gonna have a mask on, I'll put my mask on. If I'm wandering around the halls, I'm probably gonna start wearing a mask at these things anyways.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I really liked not getting the flu for 2 years too. Like,
yeah. Con
crud is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wash your hands and wear a mask.
Yeah.
So I've got Adepticon, and then I come back home for literally 2 days because I come back on Monday and I leave on Wednesday for another convention. And so I'm just gonna it's a professional convention. I'm just gonna mask like the entire month. I'm just gonna like maybe nail it on or something. I don't know. So yeah, I will be fully masked the entire time because I've had COVID. It wasn't fun. I don't want it again. So yeah.
Well, awesome. I'm looking for. Did you smash your face? Well, with that, we're gonna have a wonderful time at Adepticon. Look us up if you see us there. Until then,
play the game the way you want to.
We'd love it if you could give us a positive rating and review on iTunes.
If you'd like to keep in contact with us, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching for Masters of the Forge.
And you can follow our hobby progress on Instagram with the hashtag Masters of the Forge.
If you'd like to engage with us directly, you can always join our Discord server.
To do so, or if you have any questions, topic suggestions, or if you'd like to advertise your creative hobby endeavor,
contact us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com.
Please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/mastersoftheforge. Thanks.
This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Podod of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission.
It's such a good feeling to play games your way. It's such a happy feeling 40K'ing away. And when you throw dice with story in mind, it's such a wonderful way to unwind. It's a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling you know that we'll be back when the fortnight's new, and we'll have new ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. We will too.